Liberians on Tuesday voted in a presidential runoff election that will decide who will be the next president after the incumbent George Weah narrowly won the first round but failed to get more than 50% of the vote, resulting in the runoff. Charles Alpha brings us details.
10th October election was Liberia's closest presidential race since a civil war ended 2 decades ago. Incumbent President George Weah currently has 43.8% of the votes, with Boakai polling 43.5%. A candidate needs more than 50% of the votes to be declared the winner. None of the 18 other presidential candidates received more than 3% in the first round, and the two main candidates are likely to seek their endorsement as each vote will count in a runoff. Mr. Weah, a former international football star, is seeking a second term as president. The president won a runoff in the 2017 poll with 61.5% to Mr. Boakai's 38.5%. He got the most votes in the first round of that election, 38.4% to Mr. Boakai, 28%, suggesting that Mr. Boakai fared better. Analysts say whoever comes out top in the first round will have the advantage of greater momentum and might be the last attempt at the presidency for Mr. Boakai, who is 78. He served as vice president in the government of then-President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, who won the Nobel Peace Prize for her effort to achieve peace and stability in Liberia, following a brutal civil war that killed an estimated 250 people. He waged his campaign under the slogan "Rescue," arguing that the West African state went downhill during Mr. Weah's first 6 years in office. Mr. Weah, 57, has dismissed Mr. Boakai's allegations, saying he has made significant strides, including introducing free tuition for university students.
Meanwhile, President of the Economic Communities of West African States, ECOWAS, Omar Toure, has congratulated candidates, their political coalitions and supporters for a successful and peaceful electoral campaign that ended on the 12th of November 2023. A statement by the ECOWAS Commission through the 80-strong election observation mission to the Republic of Liberia says ECOWAS has been following with keen interest the pre-electoral processes and events since the inconclusive presidential election on 10th October 2023. It says despite the peaceful environment, the mission noted isolated incidents at some flashpoints that disrupted the electoral process and therefore called on all stakeholders to commit to preserving the peace and stability of the Republic of Liberia before, during, and after the election. The ECOWAS Commission further urges the candidates, their political alliances, and supporters to be guided by the spirit of national unity, peace, and stability, and adhere to the expressed commitments made within the framework of the revised Farmington River Declaration. The European Union Foreign Affairs Council at its meeting has discussed the situation in the Gaza Strip and the Russian aggression in Ukraine. It also set the agenda for climate diplomacy in 2023, among other issues of interest to EU member states. Haman Jabani reports on some of the outcomes of the meeting.
The aim of the ministerial meeting is to further intensify EU's engagement with Western Balkans, with emphasis on common security challenges such as foreign interference and information manipulation, cyber threats. It is also to look at the repercussion of Russia's aggression against Ukraine, as well as cooperation in international fora. European ministers focused their discussion on the situation in Gaza and on the need for immediate cessation of hostility to establish humanitarian corridors, which was expressed in a statement. The Council made it clear that the opening of the Rafah corridor considered a positive development. It is insufficient to alleviate the humanitarian situation in the region.
We condemn the use of Hamas as hospitals and people as human shields, and on the other hand we ask Israel for maximum restraint and targeting in order to avoid human casualties.
It's about time that we consider the idea of humanitarian pauses, provide humanitarian aid to allow for those who are in need to get medical treatment and to allow for sustainable humanitarian health. Human life and human dignity has no color, has no nationality, so it's time that we act promptly.
We will continue to work with our European Union colleagues to get a cessation of violence and ultimately to lead to discussions that would ultimately enable people in Israel, people in Palestine to live in harmony together. That is the only way forward.
They call for the opening of more humanitarian corridors, including the possibility of a maritime route, and demanded the immediate and unconditional release of hostages. The council was also attended by Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmitry Kuleba, who updated the council on the situation in Ukraine owing to Russia's aggression and presented his country's needs and priorities.
The dynamics created by Ukraine path to membership will affect the whole process of the whole candidate that were in a kind of a stalemate.
European ministers also deliberated on the situation between Armenia and Azerbaijan and subsequent mass displacement of more than 100 Armenians from Karabakh, an ongoing effort to normalize relationship. The EU foreign ministers were joined by COP28 President-designate for an exchange on climate diplomacy. The discussion confirmed the EU's determination to ensure that despite current geopolitical turmoil, the EU Climate Conference stays focused on the essential fight against global warming and climate change with ambitious discussion and commitments. Hamman Jabani, NTA News.
The European Union has also held an informal ministerial meeting on housing and urban development, which seeks to address the challenges facing the sector. It was a resolve of the meeting to focus on access to decent housing and developing the urban agenda for the European Union. Haman Jabani reports that the meeting is holding in Spain.
Within the framework of the Spanish presidency of the Council of the EU and under the theme Housing for All in Sustainable, Healthy and Inclusive Built Environment, the meeting will focus on current and future challenges of buildings and urban development at the European level. It will raise the problem of stressed markets and persistently high prices, which together with a growing lack of supply makes it difficult for many European citizens to access decent housing. The ministers will also look into ways urban development and public policy governing these areas can address supply-side challenges, given that most Europe's population live in stressed neighborhoods and areas.
The European Union in this context has, of course, important regulations, but more so the European Union budget will be providing important support through the cohesion policy programs and the recovery and resilience facility, notably in Spain, but in fact in all European Union member states. And this is important that this investment is done in a qualitative and efficient way to allow our citizens also vis-à-vis different priorities to gain better access to the social housing and to different other needs.
And we believe that we can even share some ideas about how to solve the problem of housing crisis across Europe.
So today we're going to talk about solutions. How are we going to tackle urbanization? How are we going to tackle rising housing prices? I'm really looking forward to it, to learn from other ministers here about what we can do.
The meeting will also serve to address common challenges by sharing success stories, strategies and measures such as increasing the stock of accessibility, quality, sustainable and energy efficient public social housing as an essential premise. Hamman Jabani, NTA News.
President Bola Tinubu in Saudi Arabia has advanced negotiations on a multi-billion-dollar infrastructure finance facility from the Islamic Development Bank to fund a multi-sectoral portfolio of infrastructure projects at the federal and sub-national levels in Nigeria. This was the outcome of substantive investment discussions held between President Tinubu and the Vice President Country Programs of the Islamic Development Bank, Dr. Mansour Mukhtar. Investments in Nigeria, he said, will be among the world's most high-yielding, saying the bank has always been a partner in progress. He stressed that Nigeria has deficits in port infrastructure, power infrastructure, and agro-allied facilities that will enable sustainable food security in the country. These deficits, he added, present unrivaled opportunity for investors in a market that is the largest on the continent. Noting President Tinubu's swift and decisive economic reforms, the Vice President of the Islamic Development Bank said the financial world has been monitoring events in Nigeria and has concluded that Africa's largest economy means business this time. Back home, a total of 1,709 widows and orphans of fallen heroes of the Nigerian Armed Forces have received financial support of 250,000 naira each, courtesy of the Renewed Hope Initiative, pet project of Nigeria's First Lady, Oluremi Tinubu. The First Lady, while presenting the donation, says the society must continue to recognize the pains of the widows and show gratitude by seeking to empower them. State House correspondent Adeni Taiwo reports.
I lost my husband when I was 29.
At 33, Antonia Otun has been a widow for 4 years now, having lost her husband in 2019. Since then, she has endured life alone, having to cope with the challenge of raising their 3 kids all by herself. She is not alone in this category. Today, she shares the company of 70-year-old Hasimao Audu and about 1,707 other widows and orphans of fallen soldiers whose husbands and fathers paid the ultimate price while defending the unity and sovereignty of Nigeria at various theaters of war.
With the help of God, it hasn't been easy at all. Paying school fees, house rent, feeding.
Although silent, echoes of their cries for attention is loud enough for Nigeria's First Lady Oluremi Tinubu, who is here with her pet project, Renewed Hope Initiative, to offer them a financial support that will possibly pass for more than a widow's mite, a donation of 250,000 naira each.
This will enable you to recapitalize an existing business or to start a new business of your choice, to enable you care for your families.
The path of a wife of a military man is not an easy one, the First Lady says, as she called on the beneficiaries to lean on one another and forge needed solidarity. President, Defense and Police Officers' Wives Association and wife of the Chief of Defense Staff, Ogogo Musa, who received the donation on behalf of the beneficiaries, applauded the intervention, describing it as a much-needed relief.
And our Excellency, our mother, out of our passion to provide succor for the less privileged and the vulnerable, is inspiring and worthy of elimination.
Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, who was represented, appreciates the First Lady for her thoughtful gesture, which he says shows that the welfare of widows is a priority for her.
I have some projects that I have not finished. The house I'm staying and I have not finished repairing, so I will use part of it to do it and use the other one for my poultry.
I pray for the First Lady that she will get long life.
Put at a total sum of 427,750,000 naira, the intervention is captured under the Social Investment Program of the Renewed Hope Initiative. From the Nigerian Army Officers' Mess, Abuja, Adeni Taiwo, NTA News.
Now, are you feeling excessive thirst, extreme hunger, weakness and fatigue with blurry vision and frequent urination? If you are, chances are that you may be diabetic. Experts say 1 of 2 people living with diabetes are not aware. This therefore informed the yearly celebration of World Diabetes Day to create awareness on the disease. Basi Taikpang reports on the significance of the day.
Diabetes, experts say, has become a public health concern, which requires both public and government commitments. Since 1991, the World Health Organization set aside November 14th as World Diabetes Day. The day is aimed at responding to growing concerns the disease poses by its escalating health threats. It provides an opportunity to raise awareness for what needs to be done for better prevention, diagnosis and treatment.
There's a great need for the government to focus and give attention for diabetes. There's a great need for the public health sector to pay attention and prioritize diabetes management in this country.
Statistics by the World Health Organization shows that globally in 2021, 537 adults between the ages of 20 and 79 were living with diabetes. The number of people living with diabetes is projected to increase to 643 million adults in 2030. The statistics also show that 3 out of 4 people living with diabetes are more in low-income countries, while in Nigeria, 1 in 2 persons diagnosed are living with diabetes. Muslimat Isa, who was diagnosed 10 years ago, shares her experience coping with the disease.
Taking a very balanced diet, a good diet that doesn't contain a lot of carbohydrates, because carbohydrate will ginger this thing up. So with exercise also, and take care of everything.
This year's theme, Access to Diabetes Care. Know your risk factor, know your response. Experts that will catch regular exercises and check up. Basi Taipang, NTA News.
You're watching the news on NTA International, reaching you from Abuja. Time for a short break. More news when we return.
3, 2, 1.
Hi. Hello.
Can you see me? It's got my name on the cup.
Hi, Africa Magic. I would like to say
happy birthday.
Congratulations to Africa Magic. 20 is a lot.
I was shocked that it's only 20 years
of telling stories of passion.
Thank you for inclusion.
Thank you for training me and raising me.
Thanks for nurturing stars.
Today, if we are loved and celebrated around the world, Africa Magic has played a key role in that.
Happy birthday, Africa Magic. To the best of them all, we love you.
Congratulations from Bright Easy Gurugu, Badman Ball, Green Baby Hustler, Alaji with the long gun. Champagne.
Thanks for staying with us. A 4.9 magnitude earthquake has struck the South Sudan-Uganda border area with a depth of 10 kilometers. The earthquake is considered one of the most deadly naturally triggered disasters in the world. Charles Alpha reports.
The earthquake of 4.9 magnitude that hit the border areas of South Sudan and Uganda was on the Richter scale. It occurred at 9:54 p.m. local time in central Equatorial State and was felt by some people in Juba, the capital of South Sudan, which is about 52 kilometers away from the epicenter. The earthquake was also detected by 33 stations around the world. Reports say the depth of the earthquake was 10 kilometers, which is considered very shallow, as they tend to cause more damage than deep ones. However, there were no reports of casualties or significant damage from the heat. The earthquake was likely a foreshock, which means that it was followed by a large earthquake in the same area. The larger earthquake was a 5.7 magnitude that occurred on November 14, 2023 at 11:59 a.m. local time. It was also shallow at 10-kilometer depth and was felt by many people in South Sudan and Uganda. The earthquake caused some minor damage to buildings and infrastructure, but no major injuries or fatalities were reported. The earthquake was the strongest in the region in the past 5 years. The last time a similar earthquake occurred was on October 31, 2023, when a 4.8 magnitude foreshock struck near Juba. Earthquakes are rare in South Sudan and Uganda, as they are located far from the major tectonic plate boundaries.
The Federal Character Commission has been charged to abide by the principle of equity, fairness and justice in the delivery of their primary responsibility to Nigerians. This was the thrust of discussions at a sensitization program organized by the Commission in Abuja. Francis Udojo has the details.
Section 14, subsection 3 and 4 of the 1999 Constitution, as amended, stipulates that the affairs of this nation should be conducted in such a way that one ethnic group shouldn't dominate the other in the affairs of the nation. To ensure the constitutional mandate is adhered to in the interest of peace, informed the gathering of the federal commissioners across the federation, as well as stakeholders from different ministries, departments and agencies, declaring open the sensitization program titled The Imperative of the Federal Character Principle in Achieving Renewed Hope Agenda. Representative of the SGF, as well as the executive chairman of the Federal Character Commission, Abubakar Atiku Bunu, emphasized the imperative of accurate data submission to ensure equitable management of human and material resources of the nation.
So punishment is already prepared for those MDAs that are not adhering.
If you have a data which says one state has taken everything to itself, it is then you utilize the data to make sure you unbundle the unfairness.
Papers on equity, fairness, and justice in the distribution of resources as tool in the Renewed Hope Agenda, as well as equitable tools for socio-economic distribution of infrastructure in the country were presented.
You know, Nigeria is a plural nation, full of so many problems. So in order to bring peace, in order to bring unity, in order to bring integration, these resources should be distributed so that no part of this country is neglected at the expense of the other.
The event has been quite successful, and we have been enlightened about the principles of the federal character, which include fairness, justice, and equity.
They believed that the principle of fairness and equity should take the lead for achieving balanced development in Nigeria. In Abuja, Francis Udojo, NTA News.
The federal government will be implementing new policies and programs that will revive and strengthen the livestock industry, worth more than 3 trillion naira. Minister of Agriculture and Food Security and National Chairman of the APC stated this in Abuja. Musa Aliu reports.
Climate change has been identified as a major environmental challenge affecting livestock development in Nigeria. The incessant clashes between farmers and livestock breeders is often linked to the effects of the climate change. However, the national chairman of All Progressives Congress APC, Abdullahi Umar Ganduje, says mitigation and adoption of modern animal breeding is a sure way to address the problem.
Strategies to mitigate farmer-cattle herder conflict include, but not limited to, creation of awareness of climate change, tree planting campaign, use of improved technology, interreligious dialogue, payment of compensation, establishment of grazing land policy, adoption of ranching policy, early warning mechanism, animal identification, and the traceability system.
Minister of State for Agriculture and Food Security, Aliu Sabi Abdullahi, says government has identified the challenges confronting livestock and efforts are underway to address them.
The ministry is promoting livestock programs that have received the good attention of the Federal Executive Council in an effort to bridge the gap between demand and supply of animal products. Some of these programs include: 1. National Pasture Development Program, which is focused on promoting homestead and commercial pasture production for sustainable ruminant production and reduce conflicts between crop farmers and livestock herders.
The 25th meeting of the Animal Science Association of Nigeria and Nigerian Institute of Animal Science focused on the challenges of climate change on animal agriculture. Musa Aliyu, NTA News.
And the House of Representatives has pledged to deploy every legislative tool at its disposal to create jobs for Nigeria's teeming youth, address poverty, improve infrastructure, as well as provide affordable healthcare and security for all Nigerians. Speaker of the House, Tajuddin Abbas, stated this while formally unveiling the legislative agenda of the 10th House, which encompasses a range of 8 critical issues. The agenda, the Speaker explains, was designed to provide necessary legislative support to the 8-point agenda of the Executive.
These issues include strengthening good governance, economic development, improving national security, law reform, economic growth and development, social sector reform and development, inclusion and open parliament, influencing foreign policy and climate change and environmental sustainability. We must act to implement in order to ensure that we achieve the best for our country.
And the expectations are high. As partners, therefore, we are in a unique position to jointly serve the people better.
National Assembly correspondent Mitaire Ikben reports that the House at plenary has condemned the reported cancellation of visas already granted 264 Nigerians on arrival at Saudi Arabia on Monday, 13th November 2023. The lawmakers described the action by the Saudi authorities as embarrassing, while calling for a thorough investigation by its committees on Foreign Affairs, Interior and Pilgrims Affairs.
Federal Government of Nigeria was there. His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, is on a state visit to Saudi Arabia. The House urged the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to, as a matter of urgency, take such diplomatic steps as may be necessary to protect the image of the nation.
I will put the question again. Those in support of this motion should say aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it.
And just before we go, a quick look at weather prospects in Nigeria and other parts of the world for Wednesday. This is where we end the news. Thanks for watching. I'm Sarah Sander, and my sign language interpreter has been Shegun Ajayi. And up next is a special package on the Minister of Housing's inspection of federal government housing projects in Abuja and Niger State.